Good morning, guys. How are we all doing? I am Dan from Trading with Dan. This is our Bitcoin morning update. So if you guys wouldn't mind smashing that like button, we shall go straight over to those Bitcoin 4-hour charts. So yes, Bitcoin on the 4-hour. Currently, we are holding around this $19,000 level, which is pretty impressive. To say what is going on in some of the other markets we're going to look at in a moment, but yeah, currently at the underside of this resistance, not at present taking out these lows and trying to make moves towards 18.5, 17.5, 16.5 thousand. But yeah, that is how we're looking at the moment. You can probably tell my my shot that we're managing to do this at the moment, because let's go and have a look at some of these absolute disgusting looking finance 1.0 markets. I mean, if we're ever going to have a black Monday or a stock market crash on the Monday, I think the highest likelihood is it comes basically the highest likelihood this year, not to say it's likely to happen, but just the highest likelihood it would happen. Yeah, we're probably at it now. Stock markets at basically major support, very major support here. Are they going to double bottom here, or are we just going to basically just catapult or just break straight through here? And then yeah, we're going to be opening up 35, well, probably going to be opening up a 3,500 handle on the S&P pretty quickly. Let's go and have a look at that DXY at 112. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's not acceptable behavior from a world reserve currency. Yeah, it literally is disgraceful. Japan has had enough. Japan decided it was going to intervene, which is this pullback here. They decided they were going to intervene, selling dollars. I don't know how much dollars they've got left to sell. The important point on this, though, is that the central bank intervention, whilst normally, almost always, central bank intervention is coordinated and and sanctioned by each other. Obviously, not obviously, but the US wasn't involved in this. Japan did it unilaterally, which is different to what normally happens. Japan, they've just, I mean, they look like they blinked first, basically. It is not looking good, and then no doubt, regardless of whatever intervention they did or didn't, or whatever jawbone or whatever they did happen, obviously they did do some selling. Whatever intervention they did here, it does look like it's just going to push onwards and upwards through that level with the further weakening of the Japanese yen. So yeah, things are basically starting to break, put it that way. Things are starting to hit breaking points now. This is a disgusting move on the 10-year. We've had this constant grind, this constant squeeze, and then for that to now start to accelerate to the upside after all of this, just disgusting. It just can't go on. This is like, I mean, basically the US has to understand that you live in a fiat Ponzi system, a debt-based fiat Ponzi system. And if you think that, just because we've got inflation here in the US, we're basically going to just limit the amount of dollars. We're going to tighten financial conditions on the world, not just the US, on the entire world, and even more so on the rest of the world. It's just not how it works. It's just not how it can work, basically, if you want to operate under such a system. So yeah, one interesting point that I do need to make out, right. Whilst we do see, obviously, the dollar in inverted commas strengthening, it is strengthening against the other currencies. But what it is not strengthening against is real things. Hence the reason inflation is at like 8, 9, 10, 12, 11, whatever percent it is in whatever country you're in. Basically, inflation, it is not strengthening. The dollar is not strengthening against real things. Real things, i.e. things that you have to pay for and use in the economy, i.e. inflation is going up. So this is just the dollar basically not going down as much again as other currencies are against those real things priced in their currency, in their economies. So this is just a differential between this and other fiat trash currencies. It is not strengthening, it is still weakening because inflation is still obviously higher. So yeah, it's just an interesting point to look at. This isn't the dollar strengthening. against real things. The dollar is weakening against real things, and it is just weakening at a slower pace against other things than other currencies are. Hence the reason why the dollar is strong against those other currencies, but is experiencing 8+% inflation against the real things that you have to buy in the economy. So just get that straight, basically. What else do you want to look at? I mean, it's just all a mess. I mean, gold is, without even looking at the chart, gold is not going to be looking good here. Gold is on a precipice. Oil is literally looking at this BS that is going on and I mean, there's certain finance professionals that I do think are knobs out there. But one of them has pretty much nailed it. Basically, the people are losing their patience with the Fed. They're literally just looking at inflation, and they're not looking at what they're going to do to literally the global economy. They're literally going to send the global economy into a depression. And then, I mean, inflation is going to be the least of your worries. I know you get the people out there that talk about stagflation, like the Peter Schiffs and that, but stagflation doesn't really happen. Basically, if your economy is in a mess, you don't have the money to drive up prices and pay those prices for things anyway. So stagflation doesn't really happen on any sort of a real sustained basis. But what does happen is everything just collapses. If basically you are going to just tighten, if you're basically going to taper a Ponzi, to use the words of like Max Kaiser, you literally can't taper a Ponzi. You cannot taper a Ponzi. You can't stick a pin in a balloon just to let some of the air out because the balloon's got a bit overinflated. As soon as you put that pin in the balloon, bang, it's all gone. I mean, we're full of analogies this morning, but honestly, it's disgusting. We have a reckless, unelected, out of control Federal Reserve, out of control central banks around the rest of the world, but clearly they're just more reactive to the Fed because they are basically the central bank of the world, because they basically are the central bank of the world reserve currency. But yet, I mean, what they are doing is they're idiots basically. Jerome Powell, PE Powell, private equity Powell, who basically bailed out as soon as any asset prices of anything that were on his friend's books started to deflate. He pumped all of them, and now he's out of bullets because of inflation, and now just doesn't want to go down as one of the worst Fed chairs in history, because he is practically one of the worst Fed chairs in history at this point now. He presided pretty much over this absolute insane bubble that inflated over BS, over nothing, over basically a cold. Basically the flu. What can we say? What can we say, guys? I mean, and now he just doesn't want to go down he wants to go down as a Paul Volcker, and not the other guy who basically, and Arthur Burns. He doesn't want to go down as an Arthur Burns. He's just bothered about himself and his image and his legacy. That is it. The guy, the institution of the central bank. I mean, money should have a free market price, shouldn't there? There should be a free market price for money, and then the price of money just can't just be set by people with just agendas and motives and just tinkering and looking around at things, because that's just not a free market, and just things that aren't free markets just won't work. Basically, they pretty much won't work. So what can I say? Is like, honestly, we are so close to an absolute disgusting stock market crash. Just honestly, this bond market. What I will say about the bond market is people do not think we can have a massive uncontrolled sell-off in the bond market. I mean, this is not an uncontrolled sell-off in the bond market at present. I know, like the perennial doomers, like Gregory Mannarino, literally always negative. You got any of his videos, negative, uncontrolled sell-off in the bond market coming, negative. Like, the guy is a negative Nancy. However, lots of people do not think that you can see an uncontrolled sell-off in the bond market. But what I will point you guys to is the uncontrolled sell-off we had in the repo market, which is a highly liquid market that went from basically 2% to 9% until there was intervention. It is going to be extremely difficult to intervene in this market with inflation where it is, if this then breaks up like say 2, 3, 4% in one go. additional to what we've got now. So say we're around 4%, we break up say to 6, 7, 8%. It's literally gonna be the end of the financial system. It's just done. It's just this fiat policy system's done. And yeah, I mean, if the Fed doesn't think of something to do, and doesn't basically, or just obsessed with his inflation number, it's gonna go to -8 if they basically carry on with what they're doing when they crash, literally cause a global depression. And yeah. Anyway. Funnily enough, Bitcoin is hanging on at the moment. Maybe, and this is obviously the wacko theories. Like, this situation is dire at the moment, and like I said, we are close to a stock market crash. The bond market will basically explode higher. There's nothing they can do at this point with inflation where it is. It is potentially the end of this financial system is coming. I know it's a bit hyperbolic, but if the end of the financial system is coming, there probably will be a part to play for crypto, and maybe that is just enough. The chances of that, the small chances of obviously literally the financial system ending soon and crypto being a part of it, maybe that is just enough at present to kind of stabilize this value. Maybe there is going to be a last rush from fiat into just any sort of thing. I mean, ultimately, can you just buy a load of gold, silver, enough that you need, stockpile it, keep it safe, self-custody it? Can you do that? Or is crypto the thing that you can quickly buy and self-custody if you are starting to sense danger in obviously finance 1.0? So yeah, the situation is disgusting, guys. It's every day I look at this, it's bullshit. I mean, it can't go on. Basically, Japan has already blinked first. They are now just unilaterally trying to intervene in this market. Europe is in an absolute mess. Europe is basically getting sacrificed by America just because it just likes to cause wars, and also not to mention the fact that manufacturing is moving to America. America's benefiting from this. America is benefiting from causing these problems in Europe, right? It is a country, it's a self-sovereign country, it does what's best for itself, it doesn't really care about Europe. If it can basically cause problems for one of its historical adversaries and benefit itself in the process, why ain't it gonna? It's gonna do it. Us Europeans need to wake up to this fact, realize that America's not our friend. They're basically doing what they want to do for their own benefits, and we need to like just basically make alliances with the boogeyman. Basically, we need to make alliances with what has historically been like the bad guy. But why is Putin necessarily the bad guy, other than he just wants to secure his own country? He wants to get away from this precarious looking finance 1.0 system, which just obviously makes him the enemy. Every leader of another country that becomes like a big enemy, like Gaddafi, like Saddam Hussein, all these people, they're all people that are literally trying to move away from the current American, the Anglo-American financial monopoly, and that is why they end up getting ended basically. And Russia is obviously just the biggest one of those guys that they can't really. They're struggling to basically end at the moment. Obviously, China is not as important because China's fully dependent on this whole finance system, and they've got severe problems out there. And I mean, you could argue they're in a bigger mess generally than everywhere else, but that's just a subject for another time. But yeah, things not looking good. Like I said, basically, stock market teetering on the edge here. Dollar absolutely disgusting accelerated moves. 10-year disgusting accelerated moves. Market's looking BS here. Bitcoin is, like I said, not as low as it should be. Like I did also say, maybe, like everyone obviously sounds stupid saying this, but maybe people are looking to crypto. Maybe there will be a slight bid that can prop it up better than we would expect relative to its volatility adjusted obviously returns in relation to other markets. Maybe it can start to detach. We shall have to see. But yeah, there we go, guys. This is not financial advice. Sorry, I don't have any better news for you all, but yeah, that is it, guys. Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Always do your own research, and I shall speak to you guys soon.